Washingtonian Magazine once referred to Jeremy Gifford, the founder of Walters, as someone who knows how to pack a bar. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park, near the center field gate.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
So now the right-hander Dylan Floro's in to pitch. His 46th appearance of the year. Came in second in the league in appearances. Swinging a line drive. Base hit over the leaping C.J. Abrams. Rounding third, Nimmo. James Wood to the plate on the fly. The tag by Adams. Too late. Into second on the throw is J.D. Martinez. And the Mets now lead by the score of 4-0. The pause, the kick. Swing, line drive left field. Another base hit. Wood up with it on a hop, coming in to score from third is Alonso. Vientos will stop at second. Harrison Bader was 0 for his last 7, drives in his 33rd run of the year for the Mets. 2 runs home here in the bottom inning, number 8. It's now the Mets 7 and the Nationals nothing.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Friday, July 12th. 2024. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off for this installment of the podcast, but I am joined by the man who runs the podcast, Tim Shovers. It is next Friday, July 19th, that the Nats will begin their post-All-Star break portion of the season. It more and more feels like their pre-All-Star break portion of the season cannot end soon enough. Thursday afternoon, a 7-0 loss at the New York Mets, completing a 3-game sweep. The Nats now have lost 5 consecutive games, now have lost 13 of the team's last 17 games, and now for this regular season are 42-52, 10 games below 500, most games below 500 that the Nats have been in this regular season. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out Mason's website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text Mason anytime, 202-486-3535. So, Tim, the Nats' formula when they were doing well was simple. Good pitching, just enough offense. Now, how sustainable that formula was, different conversation, but that was the formula. The Nats, during this slump, have gotten bad pitching and not nearly enough offense. The pitching has, plummeted. The offense remains really bad. Oh, by the way, next up is one of the best teams in the National League, the Milwaukee Brewers. These have been a rough last few weeks for the Nationals.
Rough last few weeks. The All-Star game should have been this Tuesday. I haven't figured out why it wasn't this Tuesday. And man, was that a costly calendar decision for the Washington Nationals, who desperately need a break here. And things have turned a little bit. You talked about the pitching. What was the plan this season? Well, the pitching has dropped off recently.
Very much so. And, we've talked so much about the Nats being in this midst of 17 consecutive days without a scheduled off day until the All-Star break. And it is unfortunate, and it feels like the Nats have been hit hard this season by these lengthy, grueling stretches without off days. But, the schedule is what the schedule is. This is MLB. This is what you sign up for. You got to deal with it. And the Nats right now, quite honestly, are not dealing with it well. This looks like a team that is fatigued. This looks like a team that is wilting down the stretch of this pre-All-Star break portion of the season. So the hope clearly is that this is a slump and that the Nats will get recharged, refreshed during the All-Star break, come back out and be back to playing at least decent. But right now, this is a team that is not playing very well. That is clear. And this is a team that looks worn down and is not rising to the occasion. And that is unfortunate. So If you look at the Nats offense, right, we know that it's bad, but I mean, you take in some of the numbers now, and it really is like jarring. The Nats have 52 losses. 10 of the 52 losses have been shutout losses. Nearly 1 out of every 5 Nats losses has been a shutout loss. The Nats on Thursday afternoon, no runs, 6 hits, which were a double, and 5 singles. Now, the Nats did draw 5 walks and did draw 3 hit-by-pitches. The Nats recently have been like magnets for hit-by-pitches, specifically C.J. Abrams. But the Nats on Thursday afternoon went 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. And how about what happened in the top of the second? Did this not drive you nuts? The Nats had runners at the corners with no outs, but scored no runs. 3 consecutive Nats batters struck out. Trey Lipscomb struck out swinging, Jacob Young struck out swinging, and C.J. Abrams struck out looking. And the Lipscomb strikeout was particularly bad. That came despite him having been ahead in the count 3-0. I mean, you're up 3-0 and you somehow end up striking out. That's what happened with Trey Lipscomb in that spot. That was a rough sequence, and that sequence in so many ways was like the perfect microcosm for how this Nats offense has been lately.
Yes, it was. A lot of disappointing performances at the plate today. 10 shutouts in one season. I mean, you talked about that. That is a very, very high amount. The other day on number 9, which was very recent, that's how I knew, because I counted up. I was like, man, how many times have they been shut out this year? I mean, they're on pace for nearly 20 shutouts this year, which is pathetic the right word for that? Because it feels like it.
That's pretty rough. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And, that's not even including all of the other games in which the Nats have scored, say, 1 run or 2 runs. I mean, take into account the Nats team slash line now for this regular season. The team batting average is .237. The team on base percentage is .308. The team slugging percentage is .366. .237, .308, .366. A player with those numbers is a candidate to be sent to the minors or to be designated for assignment. The Nats as a team have those numbers. And yes, offense is down in MLB across the board this season, but the Nats, relative to the rest of the majors, are one of the worst offensive teams in the majors. So look, we're not telling you anything you don't know if you're a Nats fan. Like, the offense is bad, we get that. But it has been especially bad lately. And, there is an up and down nature with even some of the Nats' better batters, to where if they're not on fire, it feels like they can be quite cool. It seems like it's very hit and miss with some of these guys. And C.J. Abrams does come to mind. Now, Abrams overall is having a very good season. Let's make that clear. He's the Nats' lone all-star. He deserves to be an all-star. Abrams had the great April, the bad May, the very good June. Things have been kind of up and down, though, so far in July. And Abrams did not have a good series here at the Mets. He, over the course of the 3 games, was the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter for all 3 of the games. Abrams, over the 3 games, 0 for 10 with a walk and 3 hit-by-pitches. No hits. Now, he did get another hit-by-pitch on Thursday afternoon, but he also went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. I don't know what the deal is with him getting hit by pitches. 5 hit by pitches now over his last 6 games. But right there is kind of a snapshot of where the offense was at in this series. And it was far from just Abrams. Other guys are having problems as well. We've talked about Trey Lipscomb. He had another mostly rough game in this game. He did have a single in the 9th inning, but he offensively has not been doing much lately. We know that the Nats don't hit for power. And, the Mets are not what I would call a very good team, but the Mets do have guys who can hit for power, and there was a big glaring difference in this series, seeing how the Mets hit, how they did offense, and how the Nationals did offense.
The 2 things that have bothered me the most during the rebuild overall have been the base running, which has been a problem not just this year, but for years, but also a game like today where they fall behind 5-0 after the 5th, and, the bottom falls out in 1 inning, and you just knew that they weren't going to score again unless they faced someone from the JV bullpen, whoever their Tanner Rainey or Jordan Weems is, in the 9th inning. But short of that, all right, that's it. No chance of a comeback. They're not going to score even 3 or 4 runs. And it seems like you've seen this over and over and over. The let-up feels very, very real. And that's what, to me, is very disappointing, on top of the fact that obviously there just isn't much power to begin with.
They need more horses on offense. They need more oomph. They need more dudes. They don't have enough dudes. The dude factor on this team in terms of the offense is way too low. I think Abrams is a dude. I think James Wood is a dude. I'm not sure who beyond those two guys is a dude, hopefully Luis Garcia Jr. is, but I think we need to see more. We know that Keibert Ruiz has had a disappointing season. Riley Adams was a starting catcher on Thursday afternoon anyway, but otherwise, it's just a bunch of guys. I mean, Jesse Winker has had a good season, but we know he's probably going to be gone in a few weeks. Who really do you look to for your consistent offensive presence in this lineup beyond Abrams and Wood? And Wood just got here 5 minutes ago, already we're looking at him in that way. Well, I will say this. There were two Nationals players who on Thursday afternoon did do some good things offensively, so let's give them credit. Lane Thomas, he was an offensive bright spot. Thomas on Thursday afternoon as the Nats starting right fielder and number 2 batter got on base 5 times. He went 2 for 2 with 2 singles, 2 walks, and a hit by pitch, though he did get thrown out in an attempted steal of second base. Top of the first, a 1-out single to left center field. Top of the third, a leadoff walk, but he then was thrown out in an attempted steal of second base for the second out on a strike him out, throw him out, double play. But Thomas in the top of the 5th, a 2-out opposite field single to right field. Thomas in the top of the 8th drew a leadoff hit by pitch. And Thomas in the top of the 9th, a 1-out walk, despite having been down to the count at 1.12. So that was good. And then another offensive bright spot is a guy who I've been highlighting lately, Juan Yepez. He's doing a nice job here. Yepez on Thursday afternoon as the Nats starting first baseman and number 6 batter, 1 for 2 with a double and 2 2-out walks. Yepez in the top of the 2nd, a leadoff double off the left field wall. Yepez in the top of the 6th, a 2-out walk despite having been down to the count at 1.02. And Yepez in the top of the 8th drew a 2-out walk. It was last Friday afternoon, July 5th, that the Nats announced that they had selected the contract of Yepez from AAA Rochester. He's since then over 30 plate appearances, has an OPS of 862. So he actually has been an upgrade, actually a pretty drastic upgrade over Joey Meneses at first base. But there's only so much that the likes of Juan Yepez can be doing for you. The Nats need a lot more than just that if they're going to get going here offensively.
Juan Yepez so far is encouraging. I like the move by the Nats, basically swapping him and Meneses. Let's see what we have from him. And I do have to say one thing. You talk about Lane Thomas, who had a pair of hits today. You did not include him in your list of dudes, and I looked at the stats very quickly, and I would agree with you. Never had a season of an OPS at 800. To me, he does not reach dude status.
No, and I think Lane Thomas is a very legitimate candidate to be traded come the trade deadline. The Nats have one more season of team control for Lane Thomas. He's due to be a free agent, not this coming offseason, but the following offseason. So to me, he's someone who should be available via trade come July 30th, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll see if he is, but I think that we could be seeing the final games for Lane Thomas with the Nats. We shall see. Hey, are you a law firm partner or an associate stuck on an underperforming franchise? Do what Nationals legend Max Scherzer did. Demand a trade. There might be greener pastures and a lot more money at another law firm for you and your team at another law firm, not to mention better management and better services to offer your clients. The law firm lateral partner market is still red hot, and Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfas is the best legal recruiter in Washington, D.C., or anywhere. And Mason wants to help you find a new and better home. Mason Kalfas, put him to work for you. Mason will sit down with you and understand your practice and career or financial goals. He will confidentially discuss your candidacy with law firms that are contenders, not 60-win teams. You can reach Mason or any of his team of 7 recruiters at 202-486-3535 or email Mason at mason@zenithlegal.com. That's 202-486-3535 or via email at mason@zenithlegal.com. Go Nats! The Nats will be contenders very soon, and you can be a contender even sooner.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
1-0 on the way. Swung on line, left center field, toward the gap, trouble. It's down and to the fence. 1 run is scored. 2 runs will score. Lindor around third coming home. He will score on a bases clearing 3-run double by Brandon Nimmo. And you could just see this coming.
The Nats' starting pitcher in this 7-0 loss at the Mets on Thursday afternoon was MacKenzie Gore. MacKenzie Gore had been having such a nice season. He now is in a rut. He on Thursday afternoon was bad for a third time in 4 starts. He officially allowed 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings. And this was a shame because the outing was going well. He tossed 4 scoreless innings, but he then was charged with 4 runs in what ended up being a 5-run 5th for the Mets. Now, Gore in the outing allowed just 3 hits, but all of them were doubles. He in the outing also issued 3 walks. 2 of the 3 hits, 2 of the 3 walks came in that 4-run Mets 5th. Gore did record 4 strikeouts, but he again threw a truckload of pitches. MacKenzie Gore, over his 4 2/3 innings, threw a whopping 95 pitches, 59 strikes, 36 balls. Gore, in that Mets 5-run 5th, gave up a leadoff double by Luis Torrens to the left center field gap, issued back-to-back 2-out walks of Jeff McNeil and Francisco Lindor, and then gave up the big blow, a 2-out, bases-loaded 3-run opposite field double by Brandon Nimmo to the left center field gap for a 3-0 Mets lead. And going back to the walk of McNeil, that walk of McNeil happened despite Gore having had McNeil down in the count at 1.02. We know MacKenzie Gore is a strikeout pitcher. You have Jeff McNeil down 0-2. You have 2 outs. That's put away time, and Gore does not put him away and ends up giving up the 3-run double by Brandon Nimmo. And what happened with Gore on Thursday afternoon came what happened with him in his previous outing, the Nats' 14-6 win over the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park this past Saturday, July 6th. Gore in that game allowed 5 runs in 3 1/3 innings, and that outing came 2 outings after Gore's outing in the Nats' 9-7 loss at the San Diego Padres on June 25th. That was that wild game that you and I talked about after the game, but Gore in that game allowed 5 runs in 5 innings. So I don't want to press the panic button on MacKenzie Gore. You know, he's in a rut. I wouldn't say that like his season is unraveling, but we have not seen MacKenzie Gore at his best lately. And what you definitely don't want to see with him is what we have seen with other Nats pitchers in recent seasons. And that is the guys get off to good starts and then unravel as the seasons go on. I sure as heck hope that that's not happening to Gore. We're not there yet. But you got to be careful here. He's got to get his arms around this because he lately has not pitched like the pitcher we know he can be.
He certainly is in a rut. He's given up at least 4 runs in 3 of his past 4 outings. He hasn't gone over 5 innings since June 14th now. That's the only time since June 1st that he's surpassed 5 innings. And also, to your point, Al, you know, wrapping his arms around this, he's just flat out got to step up. Trevor Williams, bad news. Josiah Gray, bad news. Kay Cavalli, basically bad news. The pitching staff really needs Gore to step up right now, and he's not doing it. He didn't even do it on Saturday. Now, they scored so many runs that they were able to overcome it and rout the Cardinals on Saturday. But, man, Gore, you got to pick it up.
And the issue of the pitch inefficiency remains. MacKenzie Gore for this regular season remains dead last among all qualified pitchers in the majors in pitches per inning, 18.48. The other numbers, 19 starts, ERA of 4.01. So the ERA now is above 4, and the whip remains high at 143. The Nats bullpen, like MacKenzie Gore, had been having a nice season, but the Nats bullpen now has gotten off track. The 7-0 loss at the Mets on Thursday afternoon, 4 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 3 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Dylan Floro, he officially allowed 1 run in 1/3 of an inning. You know, we on the last installment of the podcast talked about, hey, maybe Dylan Floro should be used with inherited runners as opposed to Derek Law, who has struggled so mightily in that regard this season. Well, Dylan Floro on Thursday afternoon came into the game, bottom of the 5th, runner on second, 2 outs, Nats down 3-0, and Dylan Floro on the first pitch that he threw gave up a 2-out RBI single by J.D. Martinez to left field for a 4-0 Mets lead, and Floro then gave up a 2-out RBI single by Pete Alonso down the left field line for a 5-0 Mets lead, although Alonso was thrown out by left fielder James Wood in Alonso's attempt to get to second base. Now, there were some good performances from Nats relievers on Thursday afternoon. Hunter Harvey, pitching for the first time in 6 days, was quite good. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 6th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Robert Garcia tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th. But then Kyle Finnegan, pitching for the first time in 6 days, was not good. He in the bottom of the 8th allowed 2 runs on 4 singles, and 3 of the singles each had an exit velocity of at least 99.7 miles per hour per StatCast. So yes, he gave up 4 singles as opposed to, a bunch of extra base hits, but it's not like Finnegan fell victim to the variance of the batted ball. He got hit hard. Again, 3 of the 4 singles each had an exit velocity of at least 99.7 miles per hour. So, this was kind of like a worst case scenario. The Nats get blown out, end up pitching their top 2 relievers just to get him some work, and one of the relievers struggles. Kyle Finnegan did not look good, although Harvey, who had been struggling, did look good. So that was good. But to the point about the Nats bullpen falling off recently, so you look at Nats relievers in this series, the 3 games, Nats relievers officially combined to allow 6 runs, 5 earned in 8 1/3 innings. And I stress that word officially because the 6 runs, 5 earned in 8 1/3 innings, that line does not include the inherited runners who Nats relievers allowed to score in the series. So starting pitching is struggling, relief pitching is struggling, offense is struggling. Other than that, how'd you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
A lot of insults to injury. And one of the side effects of a long losing streak, you just talked about Harvey and Finnegan not pitching for 6 days. When you're losing every day, when you're getting shut out, when you're losing by multiple runs, you don't get your top bullpen arms in there. And then when you have to throw them, one of their innings is for nothing. It's just to, get them some work out there. So basically a waste. And looking ahead to this weekend, when you look at the bullpen, and obviously they have to use 3 or 4 guys every day, and they're so tired, there's no break, etc. I could see Yoan Adone throwing a lot of innings in Milwaukee this weekend. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I thought we might see him on Thursday afternoon, but Davey Martinez understandably wanted to get Harvey and Finnegan some work, and the work for Harvey was good. The work for Finnegan ended up not being good. So Tim mentioned what is next for the Nationals, a 3-game series at the National League Central leading Milwaukee Brewers, and each team's final series before the All-Star break. And we do now know who the Nats starting pitcher for Game 1 of this series will be. Game 1 Friday night at 8:10. Jackson Rutledge will be the Nats starting pitcher. Adone not pitching on Thursday afternoons made me say to myself, all right, well, that's probably 2 because Adone is going to be the Nats starting pitcher for Friday night. Oh, no. Jackson Rutledge is getting the call. Davey Martinez confirmed that during his post-game session with reporters on Thursday afternoon. I'm actually anxious to see what Rutledge looks like. We've talked about Jackson Rutledge. It is way past time for him to be a meaningful contributor for the Nats at the major league level. The Nats took Rutledge with the number 17 overall pick in the 2019 MLB draft, and they took him out of San Jacinto Community College in Texas. So this was a collegiate pitcher taken with a top 20 pick in an MLB draft 5 years ago, and he still is not a part of the major league rotation. That's a problem, a big problem. And he has dealt with some injury, yes, but by and large, the reason that he's still not up at the major league level is he has not pitched that well in the minors. He's not having a good season for AAA Rochester. 16 starts, ERA of 6.66. He has the ERA of the devil, does Jackson Rutledge, and the whip is a sky-high 165. So I suppose we shouldn't expect too much, but I'd love to see him pitch well. I certainly am rooting for Jackson Rutledge to succeed. It is a wonderful thing that the Nats are getting what they're getting from Jake Irvin and Mitchell Parker and DJ Hers, because if not, what has happened with Jackson Rutledge, I think, would be a much bigger deal. This guy was supposed to be a piece of the rotation by now.
I'm very happy he's getting called up. I hope he gets a few starts in the rotation, including after the All-Star break. I also do not have high expectations for him based upon some of his recent box scores in the minor leagues. I will say this, though, and I thought about this while Mitchell Parker was throwing well at the beginning of the season with the Nationals, or really throughout the season. And his minor league numbers were nothing special. And it made me think that for some guys, maybe living a big league lifestyle and getting away from the buses and staying in nicer hotels, etc., could lead to pitching better. Obviously they're facing better competition, but maybe the major league lifestyle could be it for Jackson Rutledge. And I say that because if you just keep throwing him in the minors, we're going to have a continuation of these numbers. So let's see what we got at the major league level. This is exactly the time to do it.
Well, it's an opportunity for him to make at least some kind of a statement, because I do think this, if it doesn't happen for Jackson Rutledge this season, like if he continues to really struggle for Rochester and in whatever opportunities he gets at the major league level, he struggles, I think you're looking at reliever time for Jackson Rutledge next season. I think they're going to start converting him to a reliever, because at some point you got to get something out of the guy as a first-round pick 5 years ago. So I think this season may be it for him as a starter in the Nats organization if he does continue to struggle. But let's see. Maybe he comes out and pitches well. It's not an easy task. Milwaukee is not a great offensive team, but Milwaukee is a pretty good offensive team. You're obviously pitching on the road, so we'll see. But he's getting an opportunity here. The rest of the starting pitchers for the Nats in this series, Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:10, Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher, and Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 2:10, Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Hey, it's Al Galdi to tell you about the latest offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Get 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. This is better than any offer that you'll hear about regarding the trade deadline. I promise you. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation is outstanding. Every Window Nation window undergoes a 20-point inspection. Window Nation has a 96% customer satisfaction rating, and 96% of Window Nation windows installed require no follow-up service. Take advantage of this special offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
Fastball, driven in deep center field. Back goes Bellinger, way back, going, goodbye! Bang! Zoom go the fireworks! And bang, zoom goes Juan Soto with his first ever postseason home run. A 2-out, 2-run shot of the bottom of the first inning over the center field wall. It's the Nationals 2 and the Dodgers nothing.
Well, it's the first dugout dance party of the division series. They didn't homer in L.A., and Soto hits number 1 in his career on an elevated fastball to straightaway center.
You can always email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Tim, as you know, we got a lot of feedback to our conversation about the potential for Juan Soto being signed by the Nationals this offseason. I do consider the Yankees to be the favorite in terms of where Soto ultimately lands in his free agency this offseason. I think the likelihood is that he ends up re-signing with the Yankees. They basically have unlimited financial resources. The Yankees, as much as I don't like them, they are maybe the number 1 team in all of sports in terms of name value, cachet. New York is the number 1 media market in the country. Soto is doing well there. So you put all of that together, it is hard to draw up a scenario by which he doesn't re-sign with them. But you never know. Things can go south. The Yankees have kind of had an odd season, even though overall the team is doing well. But we know how crazy New York Yankees fans are. And the slightest losing streak is people ripping the team. And, maybe Soto ends up deciding that he doesn't want to be playing in an environment like that. If for whatever reason things between the Yankees and Soto go south to some degree, and he doesn't re-sign with them, I do think that him re-signing with the Nats is a possibility. Now, a big wild card, of course, is will the Lerners step up financially? And this offseason is going to be so interesting in that regard. If the Lerners are, in fact, all in on owning the team, and I do think that that is an if, but if, in fact, that they are, then this offseason would seem to be the time to start spending on the team. We got this from William Snyder. Greetings. Galdi's comments on Soto reflected wishful thinking at best. Regardless of what the Lerners might be willing to pay, the probability is near zero. New York City is Soto's cup of tea, even if it will be with the Mets. He's not leaving New York City. Thank you for the email, William. I think if he's staying in New York City, he's re-signing with the Yankees. I don't get why he'd go to the Mets when he's doing well with the Yankees, and the Yankees are much more reliable in terms of being a winning team. But if he doesn't want to be with the Yankees, I don't know why he'd want to be with the Mets. And if he doesn't want to be with the Yankees, then I do think that he could be with the Nets.
I think he'll go where he gets the most money, which is why if the Mets offer him more money, that would be the reason to move across town from the Yankees to the Mets. I don't agree with, I appreciate the email from William, but I don't agree with what he's saying. That makes no sense. There's no chance that he could leave New York and go to DC. If the Lerners were to decide that they wanted him back and offered more money, then that would be something that, Soto would seriously have to consider leaving New York. And thinking one step further down the road here, this could be, I don't know where things stand, but the Orioles obviously changed ownership. Not exactly sure where the Madison situation is, but there could be a resolution there because there's a different leader of the Orioles now. Maybe this is an offseason around a time where the Nats want to start their own television thing, and Soto could be a feather in the cap for those efforts. I don't know. Just throwing that one more piece into the pie.
Yeah, I think the television situation, what complicates it so much is that the future of these RSNs, these regional sports networks, is so up in the air. I don't know what you ideally want. Like, for years, the thinking was if the Nats ever get out of the Masson dispute, they'll start their own channel and they can make a bunch of money that way. I don't know that that option is available anymore. So I don't know, like, if you could wave a magic wand and say, okay, Nats, you can turn this television situation into whatever you want. Wave the magic wand. What is the situation that you want? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know that it's, hey, the Nats have their own network now. I don't know that that financially makes sense anymore. I actually think it might be that the Nats could be best off staying in Masson and getting, $70, $80, $90 million a year from a network that they don't own and don't have to worry about in terms of whether it's profitable or not. Of course, there also is the thing of Ted Leonsis buying the Nats and putting the games on some version of Monumental Sports Network. But we don't know yet that Monumental Sports Network is going to be this thriving enterprise. So there's a lot of murkiness about what the team should want or what the team is eyeing in terms of that television situation. But yes, Juan Soto would be a draw. Whatever your local television looks like, in whatever form your games are being broadcast, Juan Soto would help. There's no doubt about that. We got this email from Joel Charney on the Juan Soto situation. 2 factors argue against Soto coming back to the Nats. 1, Scott Boras will do everything in his power to ensure that the Soto contract breaks a record for annual value. And 2, the Lerners are highly unlikely to put up the money necessary to make the Godfather offer that will be necessary. Thank you for the email, Joel. Well, the Lerners certainly did not do that in the first go-round of negotiations with Juan Soto. That is true. Will things be any different this time? It's hard to say yes. I will grant you that. And if you do get into a bidding war with the Yankees, it's not a war you're going to win. Again, the Yankees have basically unlimited financial resources. I know they don't operate the way they used to under George Steinbrenner, but this is still a team that is loaded with money, and they're not going to get outbid by the Nats if they really, truly want to keep Soto.
Scott Boras does not have a batting average of 1,000 in his career. He also took it on the chin last offseason. It was a rough winter for Scott Boras. So all that power right there, he might not have the juice that he used to.
We'll see. We know this. He does tend to drag negotiations out. We talked to Mark Zuckerman about this off the air. He made the point of whether Soto's market is truly just about the Yankees and Nats or not, you will not get a Soto decision until months into the offseason. So December, January, etc., because that's how Boras is. He grinds out negotiations, and he does. And he inevitably leaks out that there's a mystery team, and he ends up trying to do all that he can to drive up that price as high as can be. So we shall see. Keep the feedback coming. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. This installment of the Nats Chat Podcast brought to us by Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out Mason's website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text Mason anytime, 202-486-3535. We invite you to check out our website, natschatpodcast.com, in which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.